If you've ever thought that a massive airliner running out of power mid-flight was impossible, the story of Nippon Airlink Flight 207 will make you think again. A routine journey from Tokyo to New York turned into a chain of paradoxes. No major malfunction, no extreme weather, yet it forced the aviation world to rethink how it operates. Flight 207 departed from Narita International Airport, Japan, on a calm winter morning. Its destination, John F. Kennedy International, New York City, a 12-hour flight crossing the Pacific, North America, and into one of the world's busiest skies. Aboard were about 150 passengers and 9 crew. Captain Takumi Hayato, with more than 17,000 flight hours, led the cockpit. Beside him, First Officer Kenji Morita, newly trained on the Boeing 707. Flight engineer Shun Arai completed the team, guiding a 10,000-kilometer journey through day and night. Their Boeing 707, a pioneer of intercontinental flight, had flown for more than 15 years, still reliable, but during pre-flight inspection, the team found a flaw. The automatic altitude hold system was unstable and had to be turned off. That meant every climb, every descent, every small correction would be done by hand. A rare demand in long-haul aviation. At 3 p.m. Tokyo time, the Silver Jet rolled down runway 34R and climbed to 37,000 feet. Blue sky above, calm air around. Fuel, pressure, speed, all steady. In the cabin, soft light filled the aisles as passengers read, ate, and rested. No one imagined that hours later, this same aircraft would sit at the center of one of modern aviation's most puzzling incidents. After nearly 11 hours in the air, Flight 207 entered U.S. airspace, first contacting controllers in Miami, then being handed off toward New York. That's when the real trouble began. A fierce snowstorm swept across the East Coast. Airports, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, were forced to cut landing capacity in half. Instead of more than 60 arrivals an hour, controllers could only handle 30. The sky above New York grew crowded. Approaching the state of Virginia, Flight 207 was told to enter a holding pattern, circling in the sky until cleared to descend. Standard procedure, but costly in fuel. Each minute burned about 50 kilograms. At first, no concern. They had reserves. But as the delay stretched on, numbers on the gauge began to fall faster than planned. Leaving the first holding zone, they were told to proceed to another, off the coast of New Jersey. Each change of position meant more distance, more fuel gone. Weather reports worsened. Strong winds, poor visibility, heavy snow. Even alternate airports like Boston and Philadelphia were affected. When Captain Hayato finally reached New York Center, he was instructed to hold at point MRN, a waypoint already stacked with dozens of planes at different altitudes. On the ground, controllers juggled crossing routes like threads in a web. For the crew, it meant another 20 to 30 minutes of circling. Fuel kept dropping. Engineer Shun Arai warned that reserves were hitting internal minimums. Enough for one approach, but not enough to divert elsewhere. First Officer Morita radioed, "Low fuel, requesting priority." But his phrasing, polite, not urgent, failed to trigger emergency priority. Controllers acknowledged, but kept the flight in line with others. Time slipped away. Winds stayed strong. Visibility at JFK showed no improvement. When clearance finally came to leave MRN and begin approach, it was close to 9 p.m. The crew lowered the landing gear, extended flaps, and prepared for an instrument-guided descent. With the autopilot disabled, Hayato had to fly manually. Sudden wind shifts pushed the airplane below the glide path. "Little low," Morita noted. Hayato adjusted the pitch, added thrust, steadying the jet. Silence filled the cockpit. just the hum of engines and the soft crackle of the radio. Pressure built. Fuel gauges fell. One engine began to lose power. Fuel flow uneven. Hayato decided to attempt the first approach. But near the runway, another gust hit. Speed dropped sharply. The aircraft lost lift. Warning chimes sounded. Hayato pushed the throttles forward, regained control, and chose to go around. Air traffic control cleared them for another circuit at 2,000 feet. While turning, the fourth engine quit completely. 3 remained. Morita called again, asking for immediate landing. Controllers agreed, but told them to fly a short extra leg to fit the sequence. Inside the cockpit, the lights dimmed, electrical voltage falling. They were only 10 kilometers from the runway. Hayato stayed focused, hands steady. Then one by one, the engines weakened. Fuel pressure dropped to almost zero. Panels went dark. Beyond the windows, New York shimmered faintly in the distance. In that fragile moment, Captain Hayato remained calm. He pulled the control yoke gently, turning the jet into a glide. Experience guided him. He knew that if he held the right angle, the Boeing could still travel several kilometers without power. On the ground, rescue teams stood ready. The aircraft skimmed over low hills near Long Island, descending toward an open snow-covered field. A hard contact, but no explosion, no fire. The fuselage broke in the center, yet the passenger cabin stayed intact. Through the heavy snow, crews cut openings and led people out. Some were hurt. Most survived. By midnight, the field was lit with rescue lights and falling snow. Within hours, US and Japanese aviation authorities launched a joint investigation. Recorders and flight data were recovered intact. Results showed no major technical fault. Every system worked as designed. The real cause lay elsewhere: extended holding time and a breakdown in communication. On the cockpit recording, Morita can be heard repeating the phrase, "fuel low," but he never used the critical term, "fuel emergency." That single difference changed how controllers reacted. They believed the situation was manageable and kept the flight in the queue. When the truth became clear, there was no time left to recover. The final report by the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, concluded, "The event was not personal error, but the result of language nuance, procedural habits, and training differences between nations." The NTSB urged all international airlines to standardize how emergencies are declared in English. For Nippon Airlink, it marked a turning point. The airline redesigned training to emphasize clear communication under stress. It upgraded systems so ground control could monitor each aircraft's fuel in real time. The lesson was profound. Even in an age of automation, human words still matter. Technically, Flight 207 became a textbook example of fuel mismanagement under holding pattern. At 37,000 feet, circling burns 40 to 50 kilograms of fuel per minute. An extra hour can drain more than any reserve allows. Add to that the risk of wind shear, sudden changes in wind speed or direction common in winter storms, and the margin for error narrows sharply. With the autopilot disabled, Hayato had to balance lift and drag manually, every motion demanding precision. The near-simultaneous engine shutdowns were traced to fuel pickup design. When tanks run nearly dry and the aircraft tilts, air can enter the lines, breaking the flow to the engines. Once that happens, restart is nearly impossible. Psychologically, investigators pointed to the authority gradient, the silent hierarchy between captain and first officer. Morita sensed the danger, but hesitated, deferring to experience. That hesitation delayed the crucial phrase that could have changed the outcome. The NTSB highlighted how one word can redefine urgency. Low fuel is informational. Fuel emergency commands immediate action. That gap in phrasing became the invisible fault line in this flight's story. From an engineering view, Flight 207 also exposed the limits of older aircraft lacking real-time fuel monitoring. Modern jets now use digital fuel management systems connecting cockpit and ground control simultaneously. Had that existed in 1991, ground operators could have advised a diversion long before fuel ran out. Physics offered its own lesson. Captain Hayato's final glide demonstrated pure aerodynamics, energy conservation in motion. Even without engines, a Boeing 707 can glide about 15 kilometers forward for every 1 kilometer lost in altitude, if the pilot maintains the correct angle. That's why Flight 207 could still reach open land instead of the city below. Today, Nippon Airlink 207 remains a case study worldwide, a cornerstone in crew resource management, CRM training. CRM teaches that every crew member has both the right and the duty to speak up when danger arises, regardless of rank. That principle has saved countless lives since. More than 3 decades later, Flight 207 is remembered as a fortunate event born from adversity. It reminds us that even in a world ruled by technology and procedure, the human voice is still the final safeguard. And sometimes, a single word, spoken clearly or left unsaid, can decide the fate of an entire journey across half the planet.